Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. My name is Ben Atherton Zeman, and I'm the minister here. Today's worship service Transitions is the culmination of almost a year's work by this incredible transition team. You'll hear from all four of them, and then from me, and we'll have hymns and music in between. Those of you who are new, it's not usually like this. One of the members of this transition team is also today's worship associate, Michael Pohl.
Thanks, Ben. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Michael.
We are a people of many beliefs, but we share a common faith that what we do in this world matters, and that we are connected to one another and to the planet. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your journey, you are welcome here. I want to give a special welcome to any newcomers. If you want a church that sides with love, that sides with democracy, that sides with science, and that sides with social justice, I have good news. You may have found your church home.
Thanks, Michael. And speaking of new folks, I just found out this week that we used to invite new folks to introduce themselves if that's what they wanted. So if you're new or even relatively new, just wave your hand, say hi, and if you want, you don't have to. Please stand as you're willing and able and introduce yourself. I will repeat what you say so those online can hear. Hello, everyone who's online. But who's willing to say hi? Please. Welcome. It's Nathan and Bree just moved down here. What? Grace. Just moved down here. Good to have you. Anyone else? Yeah.
Hello. I'm Ross. This is Jimmy. We've been here for a couple of weeks. We've services for a couple of months now, and I've been singing for about 3 years.
Fantastic. Ross and Pete been here coming for a couple of weeks. Good to have you. Anyone else? Yep.
My name is Gabby, and I'm just moving to the area, and this is our first service.
Yay, welcome Gabby. Just moved to the area, and it's Gabby's first service. Anyone else? Yeah. That's Dick Roberts, and he's just been coming for a couple weeks, forming a band, so talk to him. Anyone else? Okie doke. Speaking of applause, a lot of you love applauding. I love applauding. Some of you don't love applause during the worship service. So just for today, let's try doing that American Sign Language. Yeah, do it with me. ASL applause. So that'll be our default applause today. Our second announcement is we're going to have a talk back after the worship service. So those of you who want to have a conversation about what we're going to go over, the transition team and me, go get your coffee and some food and come back in here. Tend to not eat in the sanctuary, but I guess it's okay this once, and we will have that talk back. Kelly Olson is live streaming today, and our greeters are Jill Odensky, Susan Bernor, Vonda Hughes, Patty Kane Wood, and Jerry Hempfner Gates. Our church bell was rung by 11-year-old Sol Sandiger Balser. Thanks for that. And our religious education folks today are Janae Johnson and Trish Harding. Let's take a moment to center ourselves for the worship.
Our flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It is a symbol of hope, the sacred, the quest for truth, the warmth of community, the light of reason, and so much more. When Reverend Ben lights our chalice, I invite you to say our covenant out loud. The words are in your order of service. For those online, The words can be found in the text chat. I invite you all to follow along with the new hand movements. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Whenever I hear today's hymn, I'm taken back to 2013. I attended UUA General Assembly that year in Louisville, Kentucky with my daughter Marissa when she was 8. We sang this song repeatedly that week, and it still triggers a special connection for me to that time and to Marissa. The theme of GA that year was making, breaking, and remaking our covenant with one another, a process that is central to our transition work today. Please rise as you are willing and able for today's hymn, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Please be seated.
Good morning.
Morning, Sabina.
I'm Sabina. We, as the transition team, worked to hold up a mirror to the congregation, asking, who are we and who do we want to be? During the service today, we'll reflect what we've learned from you. We will host a talk back after the service so that you can let us know what we missed or misread from the reflections we thought we saw in the mirror. Those participating virtually are invited to email your feedback to any of us. We will stop today's conversation at 1. Our final research and findings will inform the congregation's search for a minister, which is planned for this fall and winter. The transition team began its mission by asking our community to talk about our identity and our aspirations. Rebecca created the magnificent timeline over there of UUSP's history. This served as a framework for individual experiences here at UUSP. The timeline reflects our identity, showing who we have been and who we are now. You are invited to add to it whenever you feel moved. We spoke to long-term members and heard profound histories with words of advice to listen and learn. There isn't much that members like Sally Carville, Sally Wallace, Gloria Marvin, Reggie and Karen, Michael and Morgan, the Fannings, Marilyn Barber, and Geneva haven't already seen and dealt with. In terms of Unitarian Universalist identity, long-timers I interviewed were proud of UU ministers involved in Selma. They were proud of UUSP's long-standing support of LGBTQIA+ when it was only 4 letters, and when hate crimes were not hate crimes, and when there were more protesters than parade marchers. Geneva talked about our founders who were committed to making USP multiracial. In the early 1900s, our leaders received death threats, and yet they went ahead. As we looked at the many aspirational responses we heard during the community conversations May 1st, our talks with covenant groups and committees, and individual conversations and emails, we saw that certain themes emerged. Each member of the transition team will take a couple of these themes and talk about what we learned. Reverend Ben will wrap up with his observations. I aggregated comments having to do with social justice, which dealt with making a difference, Gesundheit personally, and with UUSP being a beacon to the larger community collectively. What I heard from many individuals was a strong enthusiasm and pride of UUSP's visibility in the community, our participating in actions of social justice, including reproductive rights rallies, pride events, African American parades, helping immigrant families, our Friday sunset suppers, Southside Food Bridge, and our involvement in FAST. There was expressed appreciation for seeing our minister and lay leadership out front of social justice issues in the community. There was also a desire to go deeper and address the roots of our social ills. People were eager to get out our UU message to the larger community, particularly during this time of social upheaval. Many had experience with religious education and unique UUA curricula, such as Our Whole Lives and Coming of Age, which parents might value when political forces are suppressing language around gender and sexual identity. We received a range of comments regarding social justice during Sunday services. The team decided to not refer to this as social justice versus spirituality, but rather the yin-yang of Sunday services. Some felt that we had too much talk about social justice on Sundays. Some were overwhelmed by the many issues of social justice coming from the pulpit. Some suggested moving social justice issues from the pulpit to discussion forums outside of the service. Others were happy with the talk of social justice and wanted more. Some were uncomfortable with consciousness raising on gender identity. Others were grateful for the education and wanted more. There was a desire for more social justice campaigns, such as letter writing. Also, the suggestion to draw from our community resources and feature speakers such as local anti-racism leader Gwendolyn Reese. Many ideas were provided. For example, collaborating with local leaders such as area LGBTQ leaders and co-hosting a social event for local LGBTQ teens. Finally, we heard the aspiration of being a visible beacon of social justice, investing our human and facility resources to organize and mobilize for change. In the words of Cal Fox, the St. Petersburg community, the whole country and world really, needs to care more for each other. Cal, can you come here? I can't do it.
The St. Petersburg community, the whole country and the world really, needs to care more for each other, to not only have, but to demonstrate compassion and empathy, to slow down and be present in today, to look for ways to help each other, to understand that there is abundance, not scarcity here, and that sharing in the abundance does not impoverish anyone, but rather enriches everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you, Cal. That's just the first one. There's 4 more. And for now, we're going to go to the time in our worship service for joys, sorrows, and concerns. The service is brought to you live here in the sanctuary and also live on YouTube. So if you're on that YouTube live, hello, we're glad you're here. Please type your joys, your sorrows, and your concerns into the text chat. And if you have one to submit during the week, write it to me at minister@uustpete.org. If you want it to remain off of YouTube, let me know that. And right now, Sabina will place a stone in the water for each one that was submitted this week. Some of you have found the cards for joys, sorrows, and concerns and have written on them and given them up. There's still time if you want to do that.
First, a stone of joy from Trish Birch. Her garden party last Sunday was a success. Everyone had a wonderful time, and we raised over $1,100 for our congregation. Thank you, Trish, for hosting such a fun event, and thank you to all who supported it.
And next there's twin stones of joy, if you will, 2 stones. A number of years ago, Anne and Brett Freistad were blessed with twins, preemies, who together weighed 8 pounds, named Jay Oliver and Stephen Tate. They are now 40 years old. It was their birthday this past Friday. They're an amazing double blessing. Happy birthday, you two.
Stone of concern from Ruby Atwood. Her mother, Rhonda, is in the hospital after falling on concrete and sustaining a brain injury.
Yeah. A stone of concern from Kelly DeGraw. Her daughter Becca, and also Becca's partner Jeff, both tested positive for COVID.
A second stone from Kelly is a stone of joy. Her grandson James is feeling better, and granddaughter Harmony has stayed well.
A stone of joy from the religious education folks. Ms. Trish started a garden, I was there, and currently it's doing well. The spinach is growing.
And a stone of sorrow from Joanne Kellner, whose former coworker Dave Miller passed away a few days ago.
Finally, a stone from Chris MacDonald. Thank you, Chris. A stone of concern and healing for her friend Megan. We place a final stone for those joys, sorrows, and concerns that remain in our hearts, perhaps too tender to be spoken out loud. And let's take a moment of silence together. The mystery is that we are connected even when we feel apart. So let us rejoice in our beloved community that makes of the many one. So may it be. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the streams of passion, blowing the wind, rising the sea, moving the giving life, shape of justice, roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. I'd like to invite the children to come forward for our time for all ages. Just Cammie and me? Oh, here's others. There they come. Thanks for coming up. I'll go on this side. We're running out of room over there. Hey, Quinn, good to see you. Glad you came back. Hi. Okie dokie. Raise your hand if you have heard of the story of Goldilocks. Yeah, okay. Almost everyone. What's it about? You remember?
It's about a girl that goes to the three bears' house, and she sleeps in each one's bed and eats all their food.
Okay, sleeps in the beds, eats their food. Like your dog? Okay. What do you remember about the beds, about the food? Yep.
The food was porridge, and the beds were all bear beds, and one bed was small, and one bed was big, and one bed was medium.
Nice, okay. Anyone know what porridge is, by the way? You do know? Okay, I'm just the only one. Yeah?
I know what porridge is.
Knows what porridge is. I was the only one. So the bed was too small, one was too large, one was just right. How is the porridge? Anyone? This side? Yeah? How is the porridge?
One, the big one is too hot, the medium is too cold, and the little one is just perfect.
Just perfect, right. So these are actually the questions that the transition team asked all the adults over this past year. Not about porridge, but about the church. So what we asked was, what do you want more of at the church? What do you want less of at the church? And what is, everyone, just right? So we didn't ask you. We didn't ask any kids. So I ask you now, what do you want more of at the church?
I'll go first. I think that we should find a way to reach out to teenagers, more my age, not just because I'm lonely, but just there's a lot that I think this has to offer to a lot of people like me.
Okay, great. More teenagers. Reach out, more teenagers. What else do you want more of? What do you want less of? What should we have less of? I haven't heard from you. You want to say what you want less of? No. And what do we have in this church that's just right?
I think you believe in like all equality, and I think that's very good for a church.
All right.
Like a collection of people that all think that.
Collection of people that believe in equality is just right. Well, fantastic. Thanks for coming up. All 6 of you, don't go away yet because we have a cool new song in 5/4 time. So good luck with this. We can do it. We can do it. It's by Jim Scott.
Yeah, and Mr. Scott said that he got this tune from a guy named Mr. Mozart, who used it in a clarinet concerto. So the words are in the order of service. Let's see if we can do it.
Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way. That was great, let's do it again. Go your way in peace, 4, 5. Wander as you may, 4, 5. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way. That was my impression of John Arterton right there.
Hi, my name is Beth Stombaugh, and I'm one of the people on the transition team. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about spirituality, personal growth, and the 7 principles. We're all strong themes in many of our community conversations and in written responses the transition team received. Some of the specific replies regarding the 7 principles, including holding small group discussions and classes regarding our 7 principles. increasing the emphasis on the 7 principles in our services. And also, many of you felt that it was vital to remind ourselves and all of our members of the congregation to actually follow our 7 principles, both in words and in actions. Many of you also expressed a need for increased spirituality. Although spirituality seemed to mean many different things to the members of UUSP. We think we heard you say that many of you would like more guest speakers and guest ministers of different races, genders, abilities, and religions. You'd like to increase the emphasis on spirituality during some services and maybe have more of a balance between spirituality and social justice topics during Sunday services. You'd like more classes, workshops, and discussion groups focusing on spirituality. Continuing or even having more journey talks, lay-led services, and view from the pew. You'd like to see some partnering with predominantly Black churches or churches of different faiths, and also recognizing the need for a balance between serious reflections, which include spirituality, as well as services that include humor and feel-good topics. Having church-wide activities focused on different religions and spiritual practices, and importantly, investing in our future by ensuring that more children and teenagers have opportunities for spiritual growth by using outreach and advertising to hopefully increase the number of children and teenagers that participate in RE. Finally, we heard you say that you desired more personal growth opportunities. Our congregation had many diverse views about this theme. Some of you suggested small group discussions on self-help topics. Others wanted art and music workshops to express your creativity. And others suggested classes that included physical activity like Tai Chi. In conclusion, as Sabine stated, our final research and findings will be used to inform the congregation's search for a minister, which is planned for this fall and winter. But we wanted to ensure you that we have been listening to you and that quite a few of your suggestions have already been implemented. Some other suggestions and ideas can possibly be implemented even before the search committee completes their work. But many of your wonderful suggestions and requests from you, the members of UUSP, will of course require funding as well as more members volunteering and actively participating in the church and on committees. So let's bring more joy to our congregation and begin to be the change we want to see at UUSP.
Thank you, Beth.
So the hymn?
Yes.
Okay, so this song is entitled, it's hymn number 108 in your gray hymnal. It's called My Life Flows On in Endless Song, but I always think of it as, how can I keep from singing? This is a song of resistance. The third verse was written during the McCarthy era to protest the tyrants of the day. It's still appropriate right now. It was originally composed as a Christian hymn, but it's been used by the Quakers, Pete Seeger, and Irish musician Enya. This song and singing itself is especially meaningful to me. I love congregational singing, so sing out.
My life flows on in endless song above this lamentation. I I hear the real, though far off hymn, that hails a new creation. Though all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
What though the tempest
Round me roars,
I know
the truth it liveth.
What though the darkness
Round me close, songs in the night it giveth.
no storm can shake
My inmost calm,
while to that
the
rock
rock I'm clinging.
since
God
love
prevails in heaven and earth.
how
And I keep from singing.
when
Tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing. When friends rejoice, both far and near, how can I keep from singing? The prison cell and dungeon far, our thoughts to them are winging. Friends by shame are undefiled. How can I keep from singing? May be seated.
Again, I'm Michael Pohl, and I've been so blessed to work with this transition team of wonderful people and with all of you on this very important work. The themes I'm going to be talking about are diversity and inclusion, both strong themes in many of your responses. Specific callouts included the following, and these are either direct snippets of single responses or paraphrases of overlapping responses. We heard you being heartened by the energy and diversity of new members, increasing diversity in services and in the congregation, inviting BIPOC folks to discussion groups, increasing visibility in community events to attract more diverse membership, inviting guest ministers and speakers of color and of different religions, again, overlapping with what Beth had just talked about, inviting and including the wider community to our social events, sharing our diverse stories and journeys in services and groups, and recognizing that diversity is not always comfortable, and that's okay. Many of you also expressed a very personal need to be included, welcomed, and appreciated, whoever you are. Single people, families, young people, people with disabilities, LGBTQIA+ people, cisgender people, hetero people, people of color, white people. You spoke to this theme repeatedly. Your comments included the following: feeling that our church is a safe place for those that feel marginalized elsewhere. Conversely, expressing concern that you may personally feel less at home or less welcome as our membership grows and changes. Addressing critical accessibility needs on our church campus. Providing childcare so that parents can attend meetings and events. Being explicitly invited to social events or to be involved in services. And finally, as a counter consideration to being invited to join in, we heard that you would like to be asked about who you are before being asked to do something. We also heard multiple requests for more diversity in our music. You asked that our services draw from different musical traditions, involve a greater variety of performers, and bring in more varied instrumentation. Many of the remaining responses that touched on diversity and inclusion did so in the context of our worship services. Some of you spoke about how you valued and wanted variety, movement, interactivity, visual elements, levity, and sharing of each other's journeys. Others of you talked about how you valued and wanted dignity, traditional sermons, less joking around, and less clapping. Yes, there was divergence here. But across all the responses, there was also a common theme of bringing joy and depth to worship services. There were also unexpected interlacings and insights. One respondent noted that even though they favored a more traditional approach to services, they weren't opposed to change, so long as they felt included in and informed about that change. Overall, we heard you advocate strongly for welcoming and including new people and diverse traditions. We also heard you ask to extend this spirit of inclusion to our current members. Thank you all for your thoughts on widening our circle and embracing the diversity in our community. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, yet again, come.
Okay, the next hymn is number 109 in your hymnal, but after I chose it and I was plunking out the notes on my little keyboard, I realized, wait, that's not the tune I know. I chose it, it's Bread and Roses, and I chose it because it shows the need for both social justice action, but also food for the soul. So we're going to try singing the tune that Mimi Farina wrote and that a lot of us think of as Judy Collins singing. It was also the tune that was sung by the members of the Welsh mining community in the 2014 film Pride. We're going to try singing the first, second, and fourth stanzas.
As we come marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, 1,000 workshops gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we come marching, marching, we battle to for men, for they are women's children, and we mother them again. Our lives shall not be sweated, from birth until life closes. Hearts starve as well as bodies. Give us bread, but give us roses.
Last one.
As we come marching, marching, we bring the greater days. The rising of the women means the rising of the race. No more the drudge and idler, 10 toil then one reposes, but a sharing of life's glories, bread and roses, bread and roses. Thank you, Rebecca. You're up, yeah.
I guess it's my turn to talk. In solidarity and accompaniment with Beth, I'm going to be here since we don't have a lift yet. So, connection and covenant. We are a congregation that cares about connection. Connection within the congregation, connection with the community and the larger world, and connection with other UUs. And we're a congregation that wants to live up to our covenant, beginning with the words we say together on Sunday mornings and expanding to the way we treat each other in all our endeavors. Regarding connection within the congregation, the transition team heard many comments. We like to connect or want to connect in the service by recognizing newcomers, greeting one another, hearing stories through View from the Pew or a journey, and making and listening to music. We want to connect through social activities to increase our sense of community at coffee hour after the service, at Sunday lunches, and at intergenerational activities that include families. And not just on Sunday. We want small group suppers, potlucks, concerts, gatherings for fun. We want to get to know each other on a deeper level through covenant groups, the meditation group, the legacy writing group, adult RE, book discussion groups, religious discussion groups, art workshops, gatherings for creating greater understanding of and commitment to each other. We want spiritual journey opportunities, certainly questions and readings for personal growth and deep reflection during worship, but also small groups where we reflect on readings and poems. We journal, meditate, and share. Also, conversations for those of us in the 75+ age range about where we are on life's continuum and how we feel about that, like the death cafes that we've had in the past. We need restorative time together. A recurring recommendation: let's get the word out about these opportunities for connection, helping new members become involved in these activities. Besides the service, social activities, and small groups, we connect by working together on committees and in other volunteer opportunities. The membership committee can help new members feel more welcome and engaged by letting them know how to participate, whether by serving on the membership committee or care committee or Friday Sunset Supper or religious education or the annual giving team or the many other opportunities to serve. We can communicate what each committee or team does when it meets and what the opportunities are for volunteering in big and small ways. We do not confine ourselves to being within our walls. We reach out. We connect with other community groups around social justice and other issues, for example, our work on the Friday Sunset Supper, Support for FAST, Celebrate Outreach, Southside Food Bridge, Daystar Life Center. And we participate in marches, for example, to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to celebrate Pride, and to demand reproductive justice. One particular comment that expressed this wish to reach out and connect: we should focus on the 7 principles to attract people who believe in them. There are people out there, if they knew us, they would want to be with us. We need to be that kind of place. I believe, and I'm still quoting here, we can imagine ways to radiate outward. We can make our presence felt, understood, and appreciated beyond our physical building, out into the world, as we say every Sunday. We care about connection with other Unitarian Universalists. This is a way that we stay connected to our principles. We value participation in cluster activities, like when the UUs of Clearwater joined us for the recent Reproductive Rights March in St. Petersburg. We value partnering with other UU churches to share resources, such as sponsoring an OWL, Our Whole Lives, class with another congregation. Another way we connect is by involvement in the Unitarian Universalist Association, by taking classes and using other services and resources offered by UUA, as well as by attending General Assembly. Covenant was another recurring theme in our interviews with the congregation. Many mentioned the words we say together on Sunday morning: love is the spirit of this church and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another. Some talked about a longer, more detailed covenant that the congregation developed together some time ago. I've assigned myself to research what that was and bring it to light. Maybe we want to revive it. Maybe we want to generate a new covenant. Other responses had to do with how we live up to the words we say in our covenant, how we treat each other. We value covenant groups. We'd like to increase the number of covenant groups and provide information about how to join one. We value the democratic process, including transparency from the board and committees. We value living out our covenant as a congregation with specific mentions of discussion and emphasis on the 7 principles, a desire for increased support, love, patience, and kindness for each other despite disagreements, and less divisiveness, disrespect, and conflict. Some responded that we can learn from our difficulties in our efforts toward conflict resolution and right relationship. And finally, many expressed appreciation for what we're doing right now, talking together about how we can do better.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, transition team. Rebecca, Michael, Beth, and Sabina have spent countless hours listening, writing, meeting, putting together this beautiful timeline, and so much more. So please join me in thanking them with some more ASL applause. Thank you, transition team. And my thanks to the rest of you for doing the not easy emotional and mental labor of digging deep, of thinking and answering those Goldilocks questions that we asked the kids. Even today, you've sat through not 1 but 5 mini sermons. So here's your final one. Raise your hand. Sabina talked about holding up a mirror at the beginning. Raise your hand if you love looking in the mirror. You just love the sight of that beautiful. Yeah, that's what I thought. One, on some days, like if I have super good self-esteem, I'll be like, hey, handsome. And I've learned that from my wife, Lucinda, mostly. But most days, it's kind of like, I don't want to stare too long, I don't want to, and especially, did anyone have those mirrors where it's like, it blows up your face and you can see every pore, the real close look? I mean, that's a lot. And it's hard work to do. So thank you all for doing that, and especially to the transition team. It's not always pretty what we see in that mirror. As Rebecca said, a real unanimous response has been, we like to be with one another. You said it differently, but every single one of you wanted more opportunities to be together. Not one person said, nah, I see them enough. And this desire to be together is strong, and can build a strong foundation for a church. And looking into this mirror with you all, I have observed a tale of 2 churches this past year of my work with you. The first church welcomes spiritual paths of all kinds: atheist, Christian, pagan, Muslim, humanist, Buddhist, Jewish. The members of this first church meet people from different faith traditions with curiosity, asking for more information, eagerly and respectfully listening. The first church is a safe space to share deeply of one's own concepts of death and the afterlife, of a supreme being or lack of a supreme being, our concepts of powers greater than us, and the reasons we are on this planet. The members of this first church take risks to share deeply and vulnerably about their own spiritual path, supporting one another, even when those paths diverge. Second church has an unstated in-group and out-group. Members whose spiritual paths are the same are trusted, and those with different spiritual paths are viewed with suspicion. The second church prides itself on having no creed, yet in practice those with a different spirituality are sidelined. The first church is a strong presence for social justice, for reproductive freedom, for an end to racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, heterosexism, transphobia, gun violence, and all forms of oppression. This first church shows up for fast gatherings, for women's marches, for peace in Ukraine, and for pride. The first church tells us that Black lives matter, that women should control their bodies, and that it's okay to say gay. The second church likes to be thought of as anti-racist, but doesn't want to do the work. The members of this church value comfort more than justice. They love the idea of diversity as long as they don't have to change anything in worship, in music, in committees, or anywhere else. The second church doesn't want to admit it's actually a country club. The first church values covenant and welcomes imperfection. When mistakes are made, the church members react with good humor, acceptance, and love. They treat conflict as an opportunity to practice compassion, to strengthen the precious relationships between one another. They listen respectfully, agree to disagree, but stay present and committed to those people they don't agree with. The first church makes the best of imperfect situations, and everyone volunteers to help. Second church is a place where everyone walks on eggshells. Strong personalities are easily offended when you step out of line, even if you didn't realize there was a line. The members operate on a consumer capitalist model. If they don't like the product that's being offered, they'll rate it 1 star and shop elsewhere. In this second church, a handful of people do most of the work until they burn out, cutting corners due to a perceived scarcity of energy and time. Many criticize from the sidelines without helping and without coming to Sunday worship. It's beautiful and it's not pretty at the same time in that mirror. And these two churches I've observed existing in the same space, in this space around us. Which church we enter into depends on the day, on the people involved, on our life circumstances, and the specific choices we make. Both churches have been shaped by this century of history, by our ministers and by our lay leaders, and they continue to be shaped each decade, each year, each minister, each day, each interaction. Now, let me be clear. For this past year, most of my days, I've been in the first church. So many of these days, I've seen so many of you working hard, showing up for justice, being spiritually curious and vulnerable, working hard and thoughtfully, admitting when you're wrong, pledging even when you don't know where the future lies. Sabina, Beth, Rebecca, and Michael spoke about so many individuals in this congregation who lead and participate with dignity, compassion, good humor, and commitment. And on the days when I'm in the second church, I've usually done something to help create it. I've answered a question defensively. I have cared more about my own ego than what's best for the congregation. I've not wanted to admit when I was wrong. Janae tells me she's in love with a church that doesn't exist yet. And Michael said he's been thinking less about, where'd he go? Michael said oh, hey. He's still up there. Michael said the other day he's been thinking less about dichotomies and more about overlap. So bread and roses, not bread or roses. And in this Tale of Two Churches model, the members of that second church, that was really helpful to me when you said that, Michael. The members of that church can be held in the light of compassion. So our behavior when we're in the second church doesn't stem from any ill intent. It arises from feeling anxious, feeling hurt, feeling unseen, misunderstood, maybe taken for granted. And given COVID, given the violence in our world and in our community, given our own personal losses and difficulties, few of us are at our best right now. And I know that we can nurture this first church. We can give it water. We can sing to it. Till 50 years from now, you'd say, yes, that's the church. That's the church I helped create. My mother texted me this morning. Hi, Mom. Her garden, she said she can already taste the first tomatoes. Can you taste this church? The first church that we're nurturing together? Because I can. Can you see it? When it's quiet, can you hear her breathing? Reverend Justine Sullivan, who's running for the UUA board, this General Assembly, says, in a faith that doesn't have a unified set of beliefs, dogma, or even ritual, how we are together is everything. And Reverend Suzanne Fast, also running for the UUA board, asks us, what do our choices say about our true values? What calls us to be in this struggle? So come wherever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Upon this foundation, this desire we have to be with one another, I will do what I can to nurture, to water, to sing to this church that all of us can be in love with. Will you?
Now let us remember our connection to one another, and let us not forget our contributions to support the means to those connections. The link to give online is in the description box below your screen. You can also donate through the Vanco Faith Engagement mobile app or on our website under the Giving tab at uustpete.org, or by sending a check to the church office. In the sanctuary, our ushers will now pass the offering bowls. If you are a newcomer here, please refrain from making a donation. This service is our gift to you, and your presence is your gift to us. Many thanks.
This is the last time you'll see me in the pulpit until mid-July. I'll be attending the Poor People's March in Washington, D.C. next weekend, and then the UU General Assembly. Still time to get more people to go to that if you want to come to Portland, Oregon. And after that, Lucinda, Lufa, and I will move down to Florida together so that the three of us can be together all of next year. Please stay for the talk back with the transition team. Get your coffee and your snacks, come back, and sit in the first few rows of the sanctuary. For now, feel free to follow along with the hand gestures as Michael extinguishes our chalice. The words to the traditional chalice for UU St. Pete are in your order of service and also online in the text chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry into our hearts, out into the world. Go in peace. I'll see you soon.